Hi guys, so today is the second episode of this DIY slash let's make a junk journal together. So you guys saw in the first video how I glued the background, okay, how I added the background, which was a piece of cardboard from a gift box, and I cut it up and I put it here, and I hit the edges of the cardboard with newsprint, and then you guys saw how I applied all the gesso. Then after that, what I did, I used Prima watercolor paint and I painted it obviously green. I used two tones of greens, two different tones, and I mixed them together. After that, I did some stencil work and I added some gold watercolor to the stencil and to the edges of the book to make it look a little bit more vintage. So let me zoom in more. Okay. I can show you some of the details of the stencil work. It's just very minimal stencil work, and I chose this type of vine kind of plant because it looks more like the leaves of it look more like the leaves in the background. So this is the spine, and the spine I didn't do much of stencil. I think I didn't do any stencil. I just applied leftover modeling paste, which is what I use to stencil. I use the modeling paste, and then here there's another stencil down there, over here, and you can touch it, so it gives texture. Aside from decorating, it gives a lot of texture to the book. And these are my edges right here. See, like if I rub my finger through the edge, it feels very smooth, although I do feel there's an edge here, and then the cover of the book, the edge of the cover of the book, it feels very smooth. It's like there's a very good transition between them. And over here as well, even though it looks like it's not, but it is. It's very smooth. Over here in the bottom as well, maybe you can see it better in the bottom. Okay, now this is the edge that I have because of the fabric right here ending here, and then here starting the piece of cardboard. So I could have leveled that with newsprint, but or with gesso, but I didn't want to. I like that. I like how it's got different edges, and you can feel all of that in the book. Okay, so, and remember that edge I was telling you guys about, that little, what was I calling it, fold in from the fabric. This is what it is, and it's so that you can move your cover very easily, and so that it can lay flat as well. So yeah, this was what you guys missed. It was a lot, because then I also showed you how I selected my paper for the signatures. It's got 5 signatures inside, so I show you how I selected my paper, how I cut it, how I combine it, because I don't just put it all together and then cut like this. I go almost paper by paper, almost, it depends, and there's a reason why I do that. I like how I can add papers that can fold out, or like they're like trifold or whatever, and for that I can't just cut it all at the same time, so I have to mix and match. I also like having different length of paper in the book. Like for example, over here I got this one is different length, and then I'll show you there's one signature that has something very interesting going on. Oh, this one over here. I don't want to show you everything because then the next episode you guys will miss it. Okay, so here, see, I got different lengths of paper, and the trick is in the details, and you can only achieve detail if you pay attention to each type of paper. to each signature. You just, you know, if you grab all your signatures together and you cut the paper the same size, there's not much detail done there. Everything is the same. So if you want each paper to look different, you have to do it that way, or find a way for you that it's easy to cut your paper and yet have different sizes of paper with lots of detail, with like the top part also not being the same length. So you can see there's different length in here going on. This is coming off. And you know, that's basically what I was showing you in that video. I was also showing how I you know, sew my signatures. Okay, how I do it. I don't use wax thread. I don't feel it's necessary. I have tried the wax thread before. Actually, when I first made books, which was way before I started doing journals, I made sketchbooks about 8 years ago. I made some for my friend, and I made some for me, and I used wax thread for those sketchbooks. And I didn't like using wax thread, so I went ahead and started using just regular, it's not regular thread, it's the one that you use for knitting. I like to work with that thread more, so now I'm using this one, which is, I don't think this one's for knitting, I'm not sure. I think it might be. I'm not very knowledgeable of different type of threads, but this is the thread that I use now. And I really like it because it's not thin, but it's not too thick. And it doesn't leave your pages loose at all. You can tighten it very well and it does not leave your pages loose. And gosh, you know, I'm hitting myself because I don't have the video where I show you how I sew them, and it's not perfect. It's like horrible. It's a horrible thing to watch. But in the end, it comes out perfect. It's one of those things where you're like, oh my God, she's completely messing everything up, or like I'm very messy when I work, but in the end, it's all neatly put together, you know? And then, I wish I would have had done what I did, which was a stupid thing I did and made me to lose my video, but what's done is done. So anyway, we are going to jump into a voiceover. I hope you guys enjoy the video. So before I talk about what's going on in this video, I would like to really apologize to you guys because it took me forever to post this video, and it's just, there's no excuse for it, but I've been struggling a lot with you know, with this channel and with my shop, and you know, just overall with my craft. And it's just, you know, I have to work out some personal issues and get my act together, but I'm trying. So anyway, I hope that even though it's super late, it's something that you guys can enjoy finally. So let's just go ahead and talk about what's going on in the video. So basically, as you guys are seeing, I'm just trying to glue my signatures to the book cover. I don't know if you know this, but well, I used fabric, and the same fabric that I used for the book cover, I used it for the signatures, and I also used Craftex. So what I do is I glue the Craftex to the fabric once I have designed the, you know, once I have made the holes into the Craftex as to where each signature is going to go in. And so I glue it to the fabric, and then I start sewing my signatures. So that's basically how I did them. And you know, and that way I found that way is cleaner. It's just more, overall it's just more clean. Like you know, at the end it's got a clean look, and I'm not worried about the fact that it doesn't, like, inside each signature, in between each signature, it looks white and it doesn't look like the cover of the book, because I'm going to cover that with handmade paper. So I like to add handmade paper to, you know, to the gaps in between my signatures. And again, I'm using the PVA glue, which I still had a little bit left. I just want to use it till it's completely gone. And I think I'm gonna buy it again because I don't know, for some reason, even though I know that the other glue is super good, the Eileen Stucky glue, it's really, really amazing. I still feel that the PVA glue it's made for bookbinding, so I still feel like, oh, I need to use that one. I don't know, it's just some sort of weird OCD kind of thing that I have, where I know I'm just wasting money, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just try the Eileen Stacky Glue completely in another journal and see how that goes. But I think it will do fine because, as I've said before, Eileen Stacky Glue, I've used it a lot for many, many, many things. To glue fabric, metal, paper, anything, and it just works. It works. So now I'm just gluing the inside cover, the decorative paper for the inside cover. And you have to make sure that your corners are super sealed. That's one thing you have to make sure. Whatever you do, you make sure your corners are very, very sealed, because you don't want the edge of the edge of the paper to start peeling off with time, because then it's just not gonna, it's not gonna make your book last long. So you have to make sure that your corners are super tightly sealed. And now I'm going to use the handmade paper. Those are the handmade papers that I have. I have more, but those are the ones I like. These are my favorite one, and I'm gonna use them for the Christmas journal. And obviously, there's been some time in between these two things. Like obviously you're just watching the video, but after I glued down the decorative paper, I waited for like 8 or 10 hours before I started, doing gluing down the handmade paper on the gaps. Now that I have glued in all my handmade paper, I'm just trying to cut it to size with the signatures, giving it some character, just working on the paper a little bit. That paper is very, very delicate. It rips off very easily, but I still like the way it looks when you just, it's not necessarily precisely cut. And that one, that white paper is also, it looks better when you just tear it instead of actually using scissors to cut it. So I'm just trying to do my best to cut it to the size of the signatures. So one of my fears when I do books is always that my spine is going to come undone. It's just not going to glue perfect, and it's just going to come undone one day. So I get very, very, very paranoid about it. And so I'm super worried when I glue it down. I make sure that it's really glued down. So I take my time. It's when you make books, a lot of people don't realize that it takes a long time to make a book. It's not something you can do overnight. I mean, you certainly could do it overnight, but it's just not going to come out perfect. It never comes out perfect anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that if you want something to last longer and be more professional looking, or just overall have very better craftsmanship, you just got to take a little bit of time to make it, and put in a lot of effort and just watch for every detail, because to me the trick is on the details, and that's what sets your book apart from other books. Because if you think about it, a journal is a journal, no matter what you do, it's the same thing. But you have to make sure that your book has something unique to it, and it's what sets it apart from other books. And sometimes you really reach that when you pay a lot of attention to detail. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add some real nice cover with a ribbon to the edge of the handmade paper where it ends, and where the decorative paper on the back on the cover begins, so that it doesn't look so rough. So I put that ribbon on the on top of it, and that ribbon I got it from, I think it was TJ Maxx. I think it was TJ Maxx. That ribbon I got it from Big Lots, and I think it's so pretty. It's a Christmas ribbon, but I just thought it was very pretty. So now that I'm done doing that, I just feel like this video was so short and it didn't actually show you guys much of the process, but I just feel terrible that the actual video where I show you, most of the process was deleted. But in the next video, which I promise I will post soon, I'll show you guys how I incorporate pockets inside the book, and how I do my tabs, and finalize the decorative part of the making the journal, the process of making the journal. So that's the ribbon that I decided to use. It's the same ribbon that I used inside. I decided to use it to tie my book together, and as I've often done before, I like to add flowers to the cover of my book. And so I'm just adding those really cute flowers. They're fake, they're not real. Sometimes I add real flowers, but it all depends. But this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I see you guys here next time. And until then, craft lots and lots. Bye bye.